Welcome to the Outer Dimensions podcast. Welcome. I am Dave, and also we have Dre. We'll be bringing him in just a second, guys. I want to welcome everyone to the Outer Dimensions podcast. I hope everyone's having a great night. We got Captain popping into the chat, but let's go ahead and bring our brother from another monster killing hunt. We got Dre. He'll be popping up in just a second, guys. But this week is going to be our Way of the Barbarian, however you say it, tomato. We're going to be talking about the Way of the Barbarian. We're going to be talking about Conan the Barbarian, Conan the Destroyer, Red Sonja, and of course, Kull the Conqueror. And in case you're not familiar with them, well, we're going to make you familiar with them. So let's go ahead and check out the chat. We got Duffman's Diorama, the creator of the trees. How's the tree maker doing tonight? I hope you're doing well, Duffman. Captain Spaulding, our Fortnite brother. We got to come up with a name for that squad, by the way. Cap saying hello to Duffman. Duffman saying hello to everybody. Hope everyone's having a great time. And now, here he is.
Sorry.
Predator hunts himself.
Listen, sometimes those predators, man, they leave a very, very bad stain, and you gotta run it around. You gotta run away. Which that's the code word for my daughter had a diaper change, and I had to be quick. So,
hey, still a demon that must be taken care of, man.
Oh yes, she is. So I'm glad to see
Gothans. You can't shy away from them. You gotta take them head on.
I have since day one. I'm like the Usos. But yeah, guys, I'm glad to see you guys in here. Captain Spaulding, obviously our brother Ruben, our brother Duffman. I saw Duffman earlier. I know you said you weren't feeling good, so I hope that you got some rest and that your leg is feeling a little bit better. And I do agree, we do need to name our Fortnite squad. That will be something we have to come up with, and you guys can name it and put something in the comments, give us an idea. Hey, JMC Collects, I do want to shout them out that I did tell them earlier in my earlier live. They will be doing a giveaway tonight. Part of the giveaway is you have to be in their live stream and subscribe to their channel. Their channel is obviously Well That F and Figures.
And exactly. This is their primetime premiere tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern, right after the Outer Dimensions podcast.
So make sure you pop in. You stay on and see some of the cool stuff they're going to be having. They're going to have a bunch of guests that they've had on the show. Seth has been on my show. He's been with us. He just did the mental health. He's OG Geek. Several things. So just make sure you check them out. It's worth the check out. And hey, you're supporting friends of ours.
Many guests, twists and turns, always with them. You never know what you're going to get with JMC and EC Collecting. Of course, that F and Figures because, well, that F and Figures, trust me.
And just so you know, JMC has paid us in advance for this, so we will be we sponsored their video.
You're getting paid for this?
Well, we're going to ask them to get paid for this. But yeah, tonight we're doing something interesting and fun. I know that I heard Dave talking about Barbarians. Now, obviously, if you are a fan of the Barbarian class from Dungeons and Dragons, they have been around in not just video games but tabletop, because if you think video games, the first Barbarian I think of is the original D&D Legends of Mystara, the arcade 4-box that you play, down to the Barbarian that was in Diablo 3, to the Barbarian in Diablo 4, and all the way up to tabletop role-playing. Conan has quintessentially been the Barbarian go-to. But how old is he? That's a good question. And to answer that question, 1929. 1929 was the first pulp magazine that was it was strange fiction or something. I can't remember exactly what the title was. I made a whole little PowerPoint for me and Dave. And the 1929, the story of Kull of Atlantis, or Kull the Conqueror, started the origin story for what we now know as the Hyborian saga of Conan. Now, when people use the word Hyborian, they think Hyboria. It's the land, right? No. Hyboria is the time frame, the age, it's a prehistoric time frame. I learned all this because I actually had to do some digging because holy crap, we couldn't find some of these movies. I know Dave and I were struggling the other night trying to talk about on Saturday and Sunday. We were trying to find Call the Conqueror. Good luck, you can't find it anywhere on the internet.
You have to pay for it.
Well, even if I tried to, I could. There was no site that could stream it that I found to pay for it.
Well, those who are interested, we're going to give you the lowdown on where you can watch them. Okay, in fact, Conan the Barbarian and Conan the Destroyer are both available on Netflix right now, and Red Sonja and Call the Conqueror are available. If anyone's ever bought a DVD from Walmart and you ever see the label about redeeming the little digital copies through Vudu, VUDU, that platform, that, and I believe Amazon Prime, you also can rent it there as well.
Interesting. Okay.
I believe that it's renting is like $3.99, and then to buy the film, I think is like $14.99. So, either that or buying the DVD flat outright, probably at local stores, maybe for around $9.99 or so.
True.
You know, if you want that hard copy, but hey, it's all about the digital, so you can have it on your phone, take it anywhere.
Well, I still love old school. I'm an old school dude. I do love my physical media. I know T3 and I have talked about this, and you and I have talked about this at great length. I do love me to have a digital copy because it's great, but I do love having a physical media. And let's kind of touch on how you watch the watch order. Sadly, you know, when we were kids growing up, you know, in the mid 80s all the way up until the late 90s, these movies didn't have what we would now know as like the Marvel Cinematic Universe watch order
or a timeline, yes,
or a timeline. We don't benefit from that, so we just kind of watch these movies and assume that the writers are telling us the right storyline.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how we got to go with this. Now, obviously, you have to go with the very first movie, which is Conan the Barbarian. The Barbarian was made in 1984. And now there's a theme with this. Conan the Barbarian, Conan the Destroyer, Red Sonja, and Kull all came out in the summers of those respective years that they were released, which is weird because I would have never expected them to stay with that. Now, the problem is you had different directors. Some actors trickle into some of the other movies, but but writers changed dramatically. Now, obviously, this is one that surprised me. And Dave, I gotta pick your brain because I wouldn't have never thought about this. Oliver Stone.
Yes.
Oliver freaking Stone. Guys, for those of you that don't know, Oliver Stone, Academy
Apocalypse
Award.
Now. I mean, just
anything with a war movie tied to it, Oliver Stone has his hands in it.
Yeah, like Dre said, anything military, anything army, like army movies back in the day, it was Oliver Stone.
Mm-hmm. Before Tom Clancy, folks.
Yeah, I mean but now by the way, I have to correct you. You said Conan the Barbarian, 1984, 1982, according to your PowerPoint here.
Sorry, my bad.
Budget of $20 million. It made 80, so it quadrupled its money. Director John Milius wrote it with Oliver Stone, and of course we get and here's a little bit of foreshadowing before a lot of us kids even knew it. Okay, we had Arnold Schwarzenegger. We see him as a young boy, and by the way, the actor who played the young boy also was the same boy from Neverending Story and a few other movies of the 80s, like Daryl and a few others. But we get James Earl Jones as the big bad of the movie, and of course he's wearing all black. He's got the long black hair, black armor. I mean, we didn't know that was the voice of Darth Vader until we would get much older.
True.
So it was kind of like, you know, like James Earl Jones is like, okay, sure, I'll be the big villain. I mean, I'm technically the villain already in a few Star Wars movies. Why not?
I mean, and then you go on to become just this iconic voice actor / regular actor.
And I mean, he's done. He was a big play actor. I mean, he did like Othello and did so many other, just, you know, Under the Sun and just so many great, like, I'm a theater person from way back. Okay. But for him to kind of like do like, yeah, I'll do a Barbarian movie. I'll wave a big sword around and have like a whole snake cult going on. But Hey, he rocked it. And I mean, we get so many people in here. Like, was it? I'm trying to think of the actress name. I think Bergman.
Sandal Bergman.
Yeah, I mean we get the
Valeria.
love interest of Conan Barbarian. We see her again in another Arnold Schwarzenegger movie later on in the show. But like we had a lot. I mean, it was when that came out. We never saw anything like that.
No, we didn't. It was actually,
I mean,
this was one of the first. From what I was reading at the time, action movies were very. They were always given an R rating because of the amount of blood, violence,
yeah,
sex, drugs, cussing. But this is before cursing, because we now know Disney has explained to us the hierarchy of what to get an R rating is and what to get an PG-13 and a PG. So one F-bomb gets you a PG-13.
Guardians of the Galaxy 3. What?
Yeah, I dropped it like that. That's one F-bomb.
Yep.
Gets you PG-13.
Exactly.
So that's that, and now that changed obviously over the years, but Disney kind of has now set that premise, especially with like movies that we're going to be seeing coming out, like Deadpool 3 and Blade eventually, if it ever gets put out.
You know, it it's going to be made 10 to 15 years from now. Don't worry, it'll get made.
Exactly, eventually.
You'll get Whistler played by some senile, like, I don't know, Pee Wee Herman or something. I don't know. But no, I mean, Conan the Barbarian. I mean, we see him as a young boy. His family's slaughtered. He's he hears his father's words of you must solve the riddle of steel, which plays a big strong theme in this movie, but that theme doesn't carry to any other Conan or Barbarian movies, which is kind of a shame. I would have liked to see more of that.
But Howard's now, this is where I a lot of the information I was researching about Robert Howard, because Robert E. Howard is the author and the creator of this universe. So there's a lot of art that's been very that denotes the style for Conan.
Yes.
That was like the guys that did like a lot of the heavy metal and pulp stuff in the late 70s and 80s. But Robert Howard created the universe that Conan lived in, and then filled it with the whole mythology. Like Crom is the god of strength, and that's what Conan worshipped. But the god that was in opposition to Crom was Set, who was the snake god, and a lot of it took place in a desert. So
kind of borrowed some of it from like Egyptian and Greek gods, but also they had the more Viking, like, I mean, they kind of merged. He took parts from different cultures and made this very unique universe. Speaking of unique,
what's up, EC?
We got EC in the house. What's up, EC? I hope you're doing good, Colin.
Yeah, but that's not even the half of it. Like, so you get this whole universe created by Howard, that he's filling it with all these different ideological beings and creatures, and then you have Conan, who fills those roles, that gap, that your hero, but he's not a good guy. He's not.
No.
If you look at the poster, which I tried to put a poster in for Dave in our cheat sheet, could you read that poster and say what the taglines were?
Why should I read when I could bring it on here?
Oh, there we go. Look at that beautiful thing.
So yeah, there it goes. Now this is showing Conan the Destroyer, but here, I mean, come on, this is Star Wars here. Let's be honest, not for nothing. Take a look at that picture. That's basically Star Wars in a way. It's Star Wars / He-Man / everything, and I'm sure because of Conan, that's kind of why we got He-Man a little bit.
It is. There was a lot of information I got about that. But I mean, that's another time.
Take a look at the sword there, guys.
Come on.
I mean, if sword. Right at the base of the sword itself, at the hilt, if you take that section right there and then repeat it up here, that's basically the power sword from Castle Grayskull. That's all I'm saying. But I mean, Schwarzenegger killed it. I mean, he was like Dre said, he kind of breached the gap. he was a bit of he was the protagonist, because like Jay said, we can't necessarily call him a hero, because as a child he was spared, put into slavery, but then he was also pretty much put in a gladiator type position where he was killing people left and right, and he was let's just say rewarded in many different ways
Oh
that we
yeah,
won't get into. Uh,
we're somewhat family friendly.
yes. I mean, he was rewarded in many different ways, so he wasn't necessarily a good guy. And then when he did get his freedom, and it wasn't by his own choice, one of his own overlords said, "I want you to be free." It was kind of like a caged tiger. A caged tiger will lose its killing instinct. Will lose its natural animal instinct, and it won't be itself anymore. One of his overlords was like, "Let's go, just go, be free, just go." And what does Conan do? He comes across somebody else, and they become thieves.
Yep, Valeria, which
So
is Sandal Bergman's character.
yeah. I mean, it's I mean, he goes from being a killer to being a thief, and just living the barbarian life, kind of like going, very much. I hate to say this, very much Guardians of the Galaxy. Star-Lord, kidnapped from Earth,
Well,
put into the life of a Ravager, which is all about sometimes
piracy. Yeah, piracy,
killing,
sometimes killing.
So, I mean, it's could we say Star-Lord is inspired by Conan to a certain extent? We possibly could. That's all I'm saying.
Now, also, I want to put this as like a little precursor to this. That when we are saying barbarian, a la, because I play Dungeons and Dragons and been doing that for 30 plus years, we're talking about barbarian as in the class, as in that he's a combatant, a melee combatant.
Not that he's a moron or anything like that. Like some people might say, "Oh, you're
he's
just
highly
no barbarian."
intelligent.
No, but it's a class of fighter. Like you have and you don't even have to be familiar with Dungeons and Dragons. Most of your RPG games, you have mages, you have clerics, you have rangers, and he's more of a brutish ranger, really.
He's actually in a la D&D. Conan is a barbarian rogue.
Okay,
he's basically a fighter rogue
because he goes to the highest bidder, basically.
What we call a mercenary now, and obviously like
professional soldier.
Yeah, a soldier for hire. And the movie, like we could go down the whole rabbit hole about what the whole premise of the movie is. And I don't want to do that because I want you guys to get a flavor for what the movie is. If you haven't seen it, Lord, are you living under a rock?
I got my own barbarian right here.
Yeah, my barbarian is raging around the living room right now, as you can hear her in the background, because the wife's not home yet, because she has to work late because she's doing school grades, because obviously they love teachers. But I digress. Conan himself goes on this quest, eventually finds out James Earl Jones was the reason, and then they have this great battle scene at like the temple, the main temple of Set. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, it's in Thuria. Do not quote me. I think it's in Thuria, which is one of the lands within this area. And it ends with him kind of going off on his own, doing his own thing, because Valeria died. Now, here's a weird thing. Valeria dies in this movie. But we will, like Dave said, Sandal Bergman was not done with this movie series yet.
She appears in she makes appearances in the other movies,
which I don't know
with the exception of Call. With the exception of Call, she does make visual appearances in the other movies, and we'll get to that eventually.
So this is movie one you're watching from 1982. So we're watching this one. Obviously, the first movie sometimes doesn't always do the best, but this one does the best out of all four. This is the best one. Let's go on to the.
We're also not mentioning the great Mako.
Oh no, of course you can't forget Mako, Uncle Ira.
Yeah,
I mean, this is like, to me, quintessential Asians of the 80s would be Mako and Mr. Miyagi, Pat Morita. Those are the two people I think of that are like.
Well, I think
Bolo Young.
Well, I mean, aside from Pat Morita, Nagato and Pat Morita, I mean, he's known. I mean, let's be honest. He's best known for Happy Days.
True.
He was, of course, Mr. Miyagi, but you forget the most magnificent buddy cop movie he did with Jay Leno called Collision Course.
I saw that movie. Yes, I'm a child of the '80s. I know these movies as bad as they were. I saw them. So
yes, kids, look it up. There's a buddy cop movie starring Jay Leno
and Pat Morita. Oh
yeah,
Lord. Pat Morita saved the movie.
Yes, he did.
But Jay Leno. What do you expect? I'm Jay Leno. Big nose and I love cars. All right, so let's move on.
So we're at Conan the Destroyer. Now, sadly, it was made for $2 million less than the first movie, but it only grossed 31. But again, years later, it became a cult classic. Again, we got Arnold Schwarzenegger. We get one of the most scariest women to grace a James Bond movie, Grace Jones.
Married to David Bowie.
Yes.
Just think about that.
For a short time.
White dude, the whitest of white dudes with the darkest of dark women. And they have a kid together too.
Yeah. And he didn't stay married to her.
No, I know, but they had their kid and they got separated.
And again, we get Mako, and of course, ladies, we got Wilt Distilt Chamberlain.
Freaking Wilt Chamberlain.
And for a basketball player, man, he was.
Oh, he was rich.
Should have been a football player, man.
Yeah, he was definitely a power forward. You can tell.
Man, Wilt, for a basketball player, especially a basketball player from the 80s, dude was ripped.
Oh yes, he was like when you see him in the movie. Underneath the split mail armor, because he was the gentleman that was protecting Olivia d'Abo, the young princess, or the young.
Don't get me started, man, dude.
You know, he had like the black fur-lined split mail. You know, I've read parts of it. I've never read the whole thing.
What was it called? Get down or get to the chopper.
Get to the library. Read my biography.
There is an unofficial sequel to Conan though. In the Weird Al movie UHF, there was Conan the Barbarian.
There are some other things we will leak at the end of this because I didn't tell Dave the whole thing, but the last question that we ask at the end of this to you guys as the audience and me to him, there is also was rumors after what happened with Red Sonja, which we'll talk about that when we get to Red Sonja.
But I mean, and honestly, Wilt Chamberlain, I would love to have seen him and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar fight each other because Kareem was in, of course, Enter the Dragon.
And Enter the Dragon. No, he was not in Enter the Dragon. He was in Deadly Game.
He was in Enter the Dragon.
Nope, he was in Deadliest Game.
Okay.
Because he's the blind man, the blind black dude that sat in the chair
and
kicked him in the chest.
You know who else? And of course, Dre knows who else. They had Sarah Douglas. Now, if you don't know Sarah Douglas, Superman 2,
Willow.
Superman and Superman 2, yeah. But to me, she's always going to be from Superman 1 and 2.
Well, before she died, she did
one of the rogue Kryptonians, huh?
Well, she did the Empress in Willow.
She was the Empress in Willow. She also appeared in Smallville once.
Yes, she did.
Kind of coming back to the fold, like a lot of the Superman actors did. But she appeared also. Now I think she seriously, personally loved the fantasy genre.
I would
because
think so.
You're also leaving out another movie that she was in, Beastmaster 2, through the portal through time.
Oh Lord!
When Dar the Beastmaster travels to modern day Los Angeles, teams up with the very amazing Carrie Werner, now Carrie Salen, actually, and Sarah Douglas was a witch from Dar's world coming to our time.
So that's right there. You can see that we're already linking actors and actresses. Now, Mako reprises his role as the sorcerer.
Yes,
he plays like an Asian sorcerer that gets into some problems. So very similar if you saw the D&D movie, the new D&D movie.
I have yet to watch it.
I got you covered.
Well, Amazon Prime has me covered.
No. Because your boy had a friend that sent him a little early Father's Day gift, and I got you the digital code.
Oh, okay, cool. Awesome.
So yes, I got you,
Because
fam.
my wife and I have to both watch that because she's got a thing for Chris Pine. I'm sure a lot of ladies do.
He does a good job in that movie. Like that's something we got to review and do a whole thing on.
I've been told by a lot of people that it's actually really good considering the previous two attempts at a Dungeons and Dragons movie. Three? Okay, I didn't.
We had two live actions that were very
Okay,
bad, and then we had a animated that was actually a direct sequel from the second.
I didn't see the animated one, but I
And the
saw
animated one
the
was
first two, like the one with Marlon.
yes, that first one was actually very very bad. But I digress.
Yeah,
So you have Tracy
Tracy Walter.
Tracy Walter, who is the actual thief in this movie. Like he plays a thief who likes to steal things and take different things.
Yeah,
funny guy.
And I swear, I've seen him in a bunch of different stuff. Like he's been on, I think he was on Newhart. He did a lot of character acting on TV shows back in the 80s and then maybe a couple of movies. He was kind of like he was like that little brother that you just kind of like tolerated. And you're like, okay, you know, like there's a scene where like the big bad is taken down and it's obviously dead. He comes over with his little dagger and does a little stabby stab. Like
yeah, and he's sitting there getting like
me.
And he's like getting the gem out. He's like, like he really does play, and he plays it up really well. Like he plays, it's almost like he's dim-witted, but he
almost sounds like an Igor type. Like, okay, let me get this. This but worth a lot. Yeah, but it almost sounds kind of has like an Igor, like, yes, master, yes. It almost sounds like that a little bit.
Yeah, and I think he plays it off. And I think he plays it off like he's not stupid, but he's dim-witted.
Yeah,
like he's intelligent, but he's not just wise.
I would say a modern comparison would be Kraglin.
Yes, Kraglin's smart.
From
just
Guardians.
a little like but he has the heart. He has the heart to do it. So
now, Colin asked, "You ever? I've never heard of it, and I think Dre's never read it, right?
No, I've read an excerpt from it because I had a friend of mine that when we worked at Barnes and Noble, they would give us like free copies of stuff.
Oh, okay.
So when I was living in New York and I was in grad school, I got to get the book for free to read it, and I read about the first chapter, and it was interesting just to see how he got his whole life started in the Austrian military and all that sort of stuff, and eventually wanted to emigrate here to the U.S. And that's where I kind of stopped.
Now, well, I guess maybe we should have thrown another movie into this.
No, there's only 4.
No, I'm saying no for. I mean, Hercules in New York.
No, I'm not gonna. See, we have to just do a B-rated movie crap load.
No. It'd be like a whole month of B-rated movies. I mean, let's face it. I mean, Schwarzenegger, but yeah. I mean, this one was, this is like, okay, this I like this as a more. It wasn't just like, okay, we're doing another Conan movie without any references to the first one. They gave us plenty of references to the first one, like when he comes across these soldiers coming at, and he just takes them out left and right. Finally, the sorceress, the queen, Sarah, played by Sarah Douglas, comes up and says, I have a job for you, and he doesn't want nothing to do with her.
Mm-mm.
And she noticed that he was praying by an altar, and then she goes on to say, I can give you whatever you desire. And of course, she's got her little powers of illusion. She sees into his mind, and suddenly the altar is filled with flames. And then among those flames, we see Valeria, of course. So she does make a visual appearance in this movie, and that's like Conan, of course, is going to be like, yeah, okay, if you can, you can bring the dead back to life, and she's like, yes, I can, and I have some swampland in Florida to sell you as well.
That's right, Eric Estrada, man, he sometimes has to do some really bad acting roles, but to be her stunt double or her understudy, that's bad.
Yeah, but I mean, it's of course he's like. To have his love back. I mean, come on. If someone said, "Hey, I can bring your girlfriend back. I can bring your son back," are you going to say no?
No, if anybody. I think,
especially if you're already showing me powers, you're showing me images, and I don't know any better because this is in so and so century. I don't know any better. So of course he's like, "Of course I will." Yes, and he, and he goes on and. he of course he gets told the whole nitty gritty. He gets told the whole setup. Basically, uh, the lovely Olivia Diabo is the princess that he is supposed to safeguard, even though she's got her bodyguard Will to Stilt. And
Yeah, that was he was a creeper in that movie. I don't care
oh
what
yes, he
anybody says.
was.
He was like, you could tell he had a thing for her. Like, and I get it because remember we're in this age of like
I mean,
it,
this was 84, people. This was 1984. So,
well, I was gonna say more. Yes, it's the time period that we should be more. I'm a big movie historian too. Like I think you got to
mhm,
look at time periods to see what the effects of the movie would be. But not just that. I think you also have to look at what the age that we were in, like this prehistoric slave-driven society.
yeah.
Rulers are there's rulers that rule by power, rulers that rule by sorcery, rulers that rule by religion, and that
Well, that
sorcery
was the first one, anyways.
exactly. So you have to kind of there is a unique theme throughout that's interwoven within these Conan movies, which the first one was the cult of Set. This would
Yes.
be a woman that's like, I can give you the life of your love back for a price.
Yes.
And, then you have all these, I mean, now granted, like I wrote in and Dave could show it there. I found like these audience reactions. So I went to a couple of the aggregator sites and, for me,
Comic booky and was sillier and funnier than the first, and that it doesn't take itself serious. Honestly, I mean, the first one was very dark. First one, you had many fans viewed this as a film with too much violence and a deviation from the original source material, referring, of course, to the comic books and, like you said, the pulp novels of yesteryear. But on the first one, to me, the first one was very strong. It was very strong because you had him as a boy, and you
well, yeah,
saw
yeah,
his
yeah.
his
We needed
transition.
that. We
But
needed that the evolution
yeah,
of his character.
we saw the growth of the character, the development, if you will. And we now coming into the second one, if you saw the first one, then you understood where he is, why he is, who he is. He's pretty much accustomed to this life, but also when he takes the offer, when he takes up the offer, he's being led to this queen city, and they already know who the hell Conan is. They're cheering his name. And of course, there is a very funny moment when he needs to like bop the head of a camel because it like
It spit on him.
spits all over him. But it's the camel from the first movie
Yep.
because he had the same thing. So it is a callback to the first one. Is the second one sillier? Yes, but let's take a look at it. When you have a movie, you make another movie. It's not gonna hit the same way that the first one does.
So they took less money to make it, and it
Yeah,
grossed not
only
even
31
what
million.
about almost less than half.
And of course, we
So
had different writers, different directors. We had Richard Fleischer as the director, or Fleischer, if you want to say
yeah,
it that way.
Fleischer. Now Fleischer is actually very well known. I
Hmm.
had to look this up. He is very big on the fantasy genre. He did stuff that was very pulpy, all the way up from like the late '60s and '50s, all the way up. So he was
Yeah,
known for like a lot of Vikings, a
yeah.
lot of mythology. So
But
that was one thing interesting about him.
a very strong approach that was different than the first one. First one, we had the director was also the co-writer along with Oliver Stone for the first one. But this time we
Mhm.
get Roy Thomas and Jerry Conway. So we get the writers, but the director really has nothing to do with the development of the story itself. I think maybe that's where it got lost a bit.
And
Because personally, I think the director should have some involvement with the story. Maybe not write the story out completely, but he or she they should have some say in the development of the story itself, and not to be like, hey, here's a script, go ahead and make the movie.
no, I 100% agree with you. I feel like one thing I noticed as I was doing the research and looking at like Howard, and because Howard dies, like Howard died, and a Frenchman rose up. I actually have his name somewhere here. I actually wrote his name down. It's a very convoluted French name, and because folks, as a historian, I like to take my notes, and I did take notes. Look, see, I have a notebook with notes in it. Um, Okay, so the Sprague de Camp. That was
Bless
the
you.
guy's name. I know, bless me. Sprague de Camp, he completed. There were like supposedly this is how it goes. Robert Howard had a bunch of like short stories that he put out. Eventually, when they made Conan, Conan was the like larger overarching story that he put together, kind of like Vampire Hunter D. Like a lot of
Yeah.
people don't realize that Vampire Hunter D, the anime we saw, was actually book 10 of a 15 volume book series, similar to like The Witcher. You know, like we when we watch The Witcher, we're not getting like book one, we're getting like maybe book 3 or 4 with parts of book 1 and 2 with characters, and they sprinkle it in too much. I like when a movie or a TV series focuses on a book and or a set of chapters, and then when we finish that, they move on to something fresh and new. You know, I like it, and following a continuation. So, as far as we know, the self-titled novel Conan the Destroyer was put out in the 40s, and we don't really know all the story because after Howard dies, Sprague kind of takes his own. It's very similar to the dude that wrote not Born. What was it? Crap. What's the name of those series that they did with Daniel Craig?
James Bond.
No, before that. With the girl that like that plays that she gets like
Tomb Raider.
No, it's the Swiss girl. Why can't I remember this? Oh my god! Based on 4, it was based on three movies. The girl with the dragon tattoo.
Okay.
Stieg Larsson. That's what it was. Stieg Larsson died, and people stepped in and completed.
Well, I mean,
his book series.
You can take a look at Star Wars. We start with Episode 4,
which Lucas did purposefully because
Yes.
Lucas himself wrote that. It's when we got into the 90s that Lucas opened up the fan fiction
Yes.
and started taking that universe and started giving people credit, which that has a whole licensing debacle that I was reading about when I kind of crossed into this. It mentioned some of that too. So there's a lot of interesting things, but I digress. The overarching thing with this is that there's neither one of these two gentlemen that wrote the movie were being true to the source material in any real big way. They were making it very much like if I did Nick Fury and we had Nick Fury, what's his face, David Hasselhoff, and then we get Ultimate Comics, Marvel Comics, Nick Fury, Samuel L. Jackson. Two completely different characters, both comic book driven, but who's the better actor? Samuel L. Jackson.
No doubt. I mean,
hands down. So in this, you don't have who would we say? Jason Momoa and Schwarzenegger? No, Schwarzenegger stays Conan up until we get to Red Sonja. Then that's going to change.
I'll be honest. I've never seen a Jason Momoa Conan.
I have. It's terrible.
So I shouldn't. Okay.
If you have nothing to do on a rainy day and you and your wife want to just watch a movie that's good popcorn, a good popcorn movie, go watch that. It's not a bad popcorn movie, but it's definitely when you watch it, you can tell like Ron Perlman's in it. It's got a lot of famous people in it, and it's very different from.
Well, if Ron Perlman is in it, is it a Guillermo del Toro movie?
I know it's not a Guillermo del Toro movie, which I thought was kind of funny that you mentioned that. I was thinking that too.
I mean, from everything from Pacific Rim to Hellboy 2 to Blade 2. I mean, he's everywhere. The man is in everything.
But he's done a great job. Now,
oh yes.
So this movie, obviously, many people have seen this one, The Destroyer, and confuse it. Which I've heard that there's actually a couple websites out there, folks. If you ever want to deep dive into this, like we did, there are Mandela effects that have been called that we are seeing these movies written wrong. People say that The Destroyer was actually the Barbarian movie, and the Barbarian was a Destroyer movie. I've heard.
I can see that because he did a lot more destruction.
True.
In the first movie, so him being known as the Destroyer, and there's a lot more references to him being a barbarian, more so in this one.
Well, because he's also established himself as like the
Yes.
anti-hero, the Stone Cold Steve Austin. Like he people knew of him, and I feel like they kind of got that with this storyline, with this one. But
could you imagine him? Can you imagine Schwarzenegger saying, "Give me a hell yeah"?
Give me a hell yeah.
Give me a cold one now.
throw me a Steve Weiser. Steve Weiser. But yeah, overall, this movie for me is a pop culture classic. So many people have done,
I grew up watching this over and over again. So I mean, like
Same
this Red Sonja and so many other movies. One we probably should talk about in the future, not necessarily anytime soon, but in the future, Krull.
Oh, Krull, we know we have
with the Glade. I mean, that's
that
that's right up there.
Galtar. That brings me back to the cartoon Galtar with the two swords.
Yes,
man, we look, dude. You know me and you. That's why we do this, folks. Dave and I, we think so similarly. This is why when you have your best friend that thinks like you,
I mean, we
have to pick his brain.
We can bridge this with a modern day Barbarian movie that came out in 1987.
Oh God, 87.
Co-starring Frank Langella, Dolph Lundgren.
Oh, He-Man, and the Masters of the Universe. Oh Lord.
I'm sorry, but Frank Langella was he was the GOAT in that movie.
Well, of course,
he's
Frank Langella. He's Frank Langella. You get villains that are so like James Earl Jones, Frank Langella. You cannot lose with names like that.
And I mean, it's Dolph Lundgren in that movie. He just sounded like he had a cold the entire time. He's talking like it's just stuffed up. Yes, okay, Tina. Yeah, I mean, he's just stuffed up. I mean, come on, but. I mean, we have a Barbarian connection with that because Brigitte Nielsen, who plays Red Sonja, which we'll talk about in a little bit, played his wife in Rocky IV and also in Creed 2. Well, his ex-wife now.
Well, yeah, because she's the mom to their son,
yes.
who Drago. Is Drago, and he's actually cool because I think Drago's actually going to get a TV series out of that, which that's something, folks. If
Cobra
you guys are interested. Oh God! If you guys are interested in this, Dave and I love I love doing deep dives into these sorts of lore because I'm a lore nerd like that. So if you guys are interested in us doing something like breaking down like the Rocky series and how Rocky into Creed and what that timeline looks like and the family tree, I love putting those things together. So we can do that. But I don't want to digress.
I mean, yeah.
Because we can go down that rabbit hole.
Trust me, there's rabbit holes everywhere we step here. So
the Destroyer ends with kind of us feeling a little lackluster. It's the second movie in the series.
Yes.
We don't want to call it a bridge movie because there really is no connection. Because at the end of the second movie,
there is no true sequel per se.
Now, mind you, unofficially, to many people in Hollywood, they view these as this is the sequel. Now we're going to move to the third and final installment of this trilogy, which is Red Sonja, Brigitte Nielsen. Mm-hmm. Now, obviously, Brigitte Nielsen was not offered this role first. The first person offered the role, and I got to bring her back in, folks, Sanjal Bergman was offered the role of Red Sonja. She decided and turned it down, wanting to star in the movie as herself, Valeria. So people said, well, how can we watch Red Sonja with Valeria, who's been dead since the very first movie, and now she's alive in this one? Supposedly, Red Sonja is one of those movies that is a hybrid, that it fits, it's the in-between story, sort of like Captain Marvel.
What if?
It's not no. What if? This is the storyline in the middle between the two movies. So while Valeria is it's technically like the prequel and takes the same time during the before she meets Conan in the first one, and like Valeria,
it's a story that is parallel, but just so happens to have many of the same faces that we've already seen. Is the best way to put it.
And this one opens up very differently than the source material because, again, Red Sonja's source material is darker. very similar to Conan. Her family, well, she is open. The movie opens up with her post a scene of being abused, because we know on the YouTube the algorithm doesn't like us
Yes.
saying the R word. So take with that
Yes.
what I'm saying.
Very strong mature situation here going on
So yeah,
against her will.
and she rises up to become a formidable female warrior. But we can't just give Sonya the movie by herself. We have to have a cast of heroes to join her.
Yes.
So I'm sitting there, my young self. I see Schwarzenegger, who's on the movie poster, because this is the official movie poster.
And you think, okay, it's Conan.
And he's even look on the byline, he's ahead of her name, which means that he's technically the star.
Well,
the star of the movie.
And I think part of that is this. One, he was already an established actor, and in the beginning of the movie, you actually see introducing Brigitte Nielsen. Yes. So she wasn't an established actress. So I think for that's where some of that came from. Even though he only appears in, I would say, maybe half or maybe 2/3, maybe a third of the movie.
I would like to say, honestly, he appears in this movie for about a third of it. And when you take that, this is like a 90-minute movie. I would say maybe 20 minutes he's in this movie, the whole movie, before he leaves, before you don't see him again. And just so you guys know, he's not listed as Conan. He's listed under a different name of
was it Calidor? Calidor?
Calidor. I think it's Calidor. I'll look it up right now to find out, just to remember.
Yeah, I want to say it's Calidor. And what's a bit ironic is in the Conan movies, they talk about how Conan has this quest that one day he will have enough riches and he will have his own kingdom. He'll be his own king, a king of his own making. And Calidor is actually someone who's already got his own kingdom.
Yeah, because he's Lord Calidor. That's who he is in this movie. Now, Calidor, there is rumors that Calidor is somehow related, like an uncle. I mean, it's real hard for me to find anything because I've never read the source material.
Mm-hmm.
And that's me being honest with you guys. As much as I'm a historian, if I didn't read I don't read the primary sources. I've never read Howard's original stories. But from what I can gather, and just from the several websites I travel to, Calidor is related to Conan. That's why they chose Schwarzenegger for the physical representation. But
could have been a cousin, I mean, it could be a Patty Duke situation here. We don't know.
Yeah, because the way
identical cousins, identical features along your bloodlines. And, I mean, different tribes. So yeah.
And you gotta remember, back then it'd be very common that you would have had a man that would have traveled as a warrior, would have, there was a sellsword, would have children that could be all tied to his clan.
Yeah.
But this movie, actually, I'm going to bypass a lot of it because I'm going to go to the audience reaction and kind of work my way forward. Or backwards, I should say.
Failure touted by many critics, the film is considered a terrible conclusion to the Barbarian trilogy.
Yep. It is considered by every aggregate
it didn't break even.
No. Every aggregate site said this movie was the worst movie made.
Honestly, I mean, I will say this. I will say, one, this is 1985, in fact. Okay. Yep. 85 had a lot of movies that year. A lot of later on that year, we would get Back to the Future among other films. Okay. Again, you had a Barbarian movie in 82, and I think Destroyer was 84. So there was a 2-year time span behind that. And then a year later, this was a quick turnaround.
So wait, Dave, before you continue, let's just go off of going on Google, typing in the popular movies of 1985. The top 6 movies. Legend by far is the greatest fantasy film. True
Tom
to
Cruise,
D&D.
Tim Curry, Mia Sara. I mean it's one of those most visually stunning fantasy films of all time, actually.
And I'm going to tell you, it is by any
Tom Cruise saves the world without pants.
Yeah, But
he's just got his armor. But I mean, it's Tim Curry as the devil, just the special effects.
He was the Darkness. That was his name, the Darkness.
He was the devil. Let's be honest.
No. I liked him. Honestly, it is obviously the devil because of the whole play on evil and
really they didn't really need to do a whole lot of sound effects on his voice because he can already talk.
So wait, let me continue with other movies. So we had Tom Cruise in Legend.
Yes.
Commando, Schwarzenegger.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Wait, I give up.
Wait, not done yet. Rambo, First Blood Part 2, Sylvester Stallone. Mad Max, Return to Thunderdome.
Beyond the Thunderdome with the late great Tina Turner.
And Rocky 4.
Oh, Rocky 4 was in 85?
Yes, it is. I just typed I typed in popular movies of 1985, and that was the top 7 within the top 7
so
movies.
I mean that's I mean there you go right there. I mean, probably people might have had a little too much Schwarzenegger. They're like, hey, we already had Commando.
I don't think it was that. You want me to tell you why I think they touted it as a bad movie? I think you had to look. Schwarzenegger was already split on a project. You had Schwarzenegger working on Commando.
Do you think because it was kind of a female lead?
I think that's. I'm going to 100%.
And
let's go to the time period.
We're not saying that is necessarily an excuse. We're saying that because, mind you, this is 1985.
Yeah, who else? You and I just talked about this the other night offline.
Respectfully, the Battle of the Sexes was very strong back then.
Oh yeah, you couldn't be. There was very few movies that a female was given the main
Aliens, Alien Saga, or Terminator with Linda Hamilton, Sigourney Weaver. I mean, those were. I mean, when you think of the 80s, aside from a few comedies or some like partial comedies, you really didn't have a whole lot of movies with strong female leads. I mean, when I say like comedies, I'm thinking like, okay, Working Girl with Melanie Griffith, and I think Sigourney might have been in that one as well.
9 to 5.
Huh?
9 to 5, Dolly Parton.
Yeah, the whole cast. I mean, just amazing. I mean, Dolly Parton. You had how am I blanking on her name? Jesus. Lily Tomlin.
Lily Tomlin. I mean, you have classics in that movie.
Yeah, I mean, it's Jane Fonda is in that movie too.
Yep.
I mean, they all very strong women. But the thing is, back in the 80s, you didn't have a whole lot of that. Another woman who comes pretty close, and she can stand her ground in any movie that she is in, is Kathleen Turner. Her and Michael Douglas were in a series of movies together, Romancing the Stone. I mean,
Romancing the Stone.
Was it V.I. Warshawski? Remember that cop
Oh my goodness, V.R. Warshawski. Oh my god. But that's again, we need to do a whole series. And folks, if you guys are interested in us doing that, like female-led movies of the 80s, that would be fun to do because there's not a whole lot of them. There really is not.
There's not a whole lot. We got Legacy of the Nerd. Sorry, guys, was putting the baby down.
Oh, it's all right. I know that
it's okay. You're putting Legacy Ranger to bed. That's what I call his baby, is Legacy Ranger.
I know what it's like. But overall, so we can get to Call the Conqueror.
Yes.
Here, this series has done nothing for Brigitte Nielsen. But
you mean Red Sonja?
Yeah, Red Sonja did nothing for Brigitte Nielsen. But you want to know what it did really well? Where it did really, it has thrived in the comics. Dynamite Comics has taken this character of Red Sonja and thrown her in with Vampirilla. The guy from Mars?
That's the thing. There's been some stories or some fandoms out there that have thrived in the comics. I'm going to give you several examples. Marvel, for many years, had Star Wars, and they have it again. Transformers, they had it, and then IDW picked it up, and now Marvel has it again.
No, Marvel doesn't have it. IDW still has Transformers.
I thought they were supposed to be changing hands soon at some point. Maybe I'm mistaken. There's a lot of other comics that IDW has taken care of, even though there was no movies for years, in some cases decades.
Mm-hmm. So this
What
is
am I
some.
what am I most known for?
Uh,
Ghostbusters.
what's that thing with
It,
the ghosts and the
yeah,
proton packs?
they had a thing called they had like a crossing stream saga where they had a multiverse of Ghostbusters that they carried on. So they had that for a number of years. Red Sonja, I heard that there's rumblings of someone wanting to make action figures for her line.
They already did. They did. It came out late last year.
Okay.
They did Lady Death, Purgatory, and Red Sonja. I
Okay.
know Art G got the Lady Death figure because it's all the same sculpt. They just repainted it.
Yes.
They look good. I never got them. The price point was a little too high.
Yeah.
But they look nice. I mean, if you have about $85 laying around, $95 and $96 after the tax, you want to
No.
get it and review it, go ahead. If Big Bad Toys wants to send us one to review, Dave and I will gladly take
Hey,
two.
Big Bad Toy Store, if you want to sponsor the Outer Dimensions podcast,
We are here for your pleasure.
please contact us at the Outer Dimensions podcast at gmail.com.
All right.
But I mean, aside from Red Sonja, what, like you were saying, what is Bridget Nielsen known for?
Rocky.
Rocky
Cobra.
4,
Cobra.
Creed, and for falling in love with Flavor Flav.
Well, no, we also do know her for the movie Cobra. She was in the movie
Okay.
Cobra with Sylvester Stallone.
So she was swapping tongues with Schwarzenegger, and then tagged Sylvester Stallone in. But
Exactly.
And Beverly Hills Cop 3 or 2.
Yes, the villain. She played the villain in
Yes.
Beverly Hills Cop 2.
When Eddie Murphy has to stand up on his tippy toes so he can like match her height.
Oh God, that was great. That was a great movie too. That's another great
Gene
one too.
Stockwell.
Just overall, just a great cast. Again, the 80s produced some great stuff. So let's go on to call. Now, folks, we're gonna literally take you on a journey that's 12 years later.
Yes.
So for 12 years,
1997.
they do nothing with the there. Now, I don't want to say they do nothing.
Hey, wasn't that supposed to be Judgment Day?
Yeah, I know.
August 29th, 1997.
Yeah, pretty much. Now, the Universal Pictures, which was the people that owned the rights to Conan, still to this day own the rights. They were going to make Cole was not supposed to be Kevin Sorbo. It was supposed to be Schwarzenegger was supposed to step in the role, but he was getting too old, was going into politics. So they did not. He was the
governor.
He became the governor, so he left. Because he was pursuing other projects. Now, mind you, he was also doing movies at the time like Eraser, and I know he did Terminator 3 and Terminator 2. Yep. So we have other movies going on in his life that this was just not a project for him to stay on and do. So this was titled in the original book title was called Call of Atlantis, and this takes place specifically after the fall of a major apocalypse that happened to what we now know as the continent of Atlantis.
Yes.
And Call is supposed to be one of the sole survivors and the progenitor to our boy Conan.
Yeah. Now, what threw a lot of people off, because as you supplied us with the information here, $30 million to make this film. For 1997, $30 million, that's actually not that much considering things. It only produced $6 million. Again, I do consider this kind of a cult classic in a way. But I think what threw people off was Kevin Sorbo. Hercules. We knew him as the warrior of virtue, so to speak. Always doing the right thing, protecting people, saving people, fighting against great gods, but always kind of he portrayed Hercules as the Captain America of Greek mythology, so to speak, right?
Come on, he did too. This guy was fortunate to not have one but two popular TV series within two different genres, sci-fi and
Andromeda. Gene Roddenberry's can't talk straight. Andromeda. But I mean, a lot of people saw him as as this guy who always does the right thing, and I think they weren't prepared for him to be, the anti-hero. To be this roguish person that long story short, he is this warrior that goes from place to place, and he stumbles across upon this situation where there's some mysterious things going on, and he happens to, well, a kingdom falls into his lap, so to speak. Literally, he's crowned to be king because I'm trying to remember the exact circumstances. It's been a few years since I watched this.
Okay, so he basically there's an apocalyptic event that occurs in Atlantis. All the people are kind of strewn about the land. He's a gladiator that basically he's put into gladiatorial combat as a slave, rises up through the ranks because the sorceress, who's Tia Carrere, Rar, she's gorgeous.
Still is.
She's fantastic. She was in that movie Easter Sunday with Joe Coy recently that just came out. Hilarious.
She was also in True Lies with Schwarzenegger.
Yes, she was, which is kind of interesting.
And of course, Wayne's World. Swing.
So that's like the basic backstory. Now, I kind of like this. So, what was this movie going against in 1997? Well, let's just start with one of my all-time favorite movies, The Fifth Element. The Fifth Element, folks. Another quintessential sci-fi.
I am a meat popsicle.
Wait, let's keep going. Batman and Robin. Schwarzenegger, folks, and Jim Carrey. For if knowledge is power, then a god am I. Men in Black #1. Jurassic Park: The Lost World. Power Rangers: The Turbo Movie. And last, another cult classic, Starship Troopers.
Would you like to know more?
So, do you see, folks, this movie grossed only $6 million, a fifth of what the budget was for it. A fifth. And I put in the cast. It had a good cast.
Yeah, we have Kevin Sorbo, of course, from Hercules, and Gene Roddenberry's Andromeda, which I think he starred in after that.
Yes, he did. It was Hercules happened, and then it was Xena took over the franchise.
Tia Carrere from she was in Showdown in Little Tokyo with Brandon Lee and Dolph Lundgren.
Yes, she did.
Then we get the Dolph Lundgren Schwarzenegger thing going on here. She was also, of course, in Wayne's World. She played Cassandra in both Wayne's World and Wayne's World 2. I mean, she's in a whole host of movies that just goes on and on. She was great as a villain-like hench person in True Lies, of course. I mean, she's great in everything that she does. We get, of course, a Lightfoot, Gary Paul Davis, which he would be a recurring actor in so many movies like The Indian in the Cupboards. Law and Order, SVU. He had recurring roles in Law and Order for many years. He's appeared in a lot of different movies over the years.
Big representation of Native American peoples.
And talk about representation. Harvey Feinstein.
Oh, Harvey Feinstein.
Harvey.
My mother.
Was it Torchlight Liberty something? A Torch Song Trilogy, I think what the movie was called. Where he plays openly gay person like he is, with a very young Matthew Broderick.
Lord help me. You know where I see him a lot? You want to know where I've seen that guy, Mr. Feinstein?
Mrs. Doubtfire.
Besides Mrs. Doubtfire, Rory watches Sesame Street, and they have the Elmo Saves Christmas. He plays the Easter Bunny.
Oh God, that's got to be amazing.
It's
Harvey Feinstein, he does a lot of comedy, but I mean, he is very campy, but he an amazing person through everything he's gone through his life. No matter what you believe or don't believe in, just an amazing person in general. In addition, we have Karina Lombard. I'm thinking that she was like the sorceress,
No, Tia Carrere was a sorceress. Karina Lombard was the love interest.
Oh, the love interest. Okay. Who? She gets a little cold. She gets a little cold towards the end of the movie. You guys have to see it to understand what I'm talking about.
Yeah, you literally have to watch this movie. It's so bad. The special effects were they were terrible.
Well, we get more connections to Schwarzenegger in this movie though. Remember, like the head. I'm trying to think of like the head, like the guy who was he was like an assistant to the king. he was like reading all the laws. He also was the psychologist from Total Recall.
Yep.
But I mean, like the type now, Call as a king, he was the one who was like, he's literally breaking the laws. There's tablets of laws, and he's like, or scrolls of laws, and he's like ripping them and setting them on fire. He's destroying them because all these laws have been passed down by so many people who are always rich and were never had to fight or do anything for themselves. And Call's the complete opposite. Like he's very, I want to say he's spiritual in a sense, because of course Karina Lombard is a seer. She can see things, she can see visions and stuff, and she thinks that he's going to bed her as concubine, and he's like, no. Like he's like, well, you don't want me, then then I don't want you. It was a very different kind of a story. We see like Schwarzenegger in his Conan movies, kind of like just taking whatever he wants, wink, wink. But this was completely different. This was like, it was a different feel to the movie. Heavy rock score to the movie too.
Yeah, that was one thing it got touted for having a great score, but the movie itself, they said, was the Land of the Lost from the 1960s.
Critics and fans alike said that this movie was a poorly made. The special effects were quoting from a source from the original Land of the Lost. I mean, you could have the greatest story ever, and you could have crappy special effects. If the story's good enough, the acting's good enough, it will grab you. I think that part of it was this director, John Nicolella.
Nothing really jumped out that he's done that I ever watched.
Exactly. I mean, if you want someone to direct an action movie and like something that's more fantasy oriented, which this one was definitely fantasy oriented, I think you need someone who can do
Sam
that.
Raimi. Why not pen Sam Raimi, who was doing the Kevin Sorbo, was doing Hercules? Why not just pen him to do this?
I mean, those that may not know, during your Hercules, The Legendary Journeys, Xena the Warrior Princess, that was made by Sam Raimi and Rob Tappert.
Wait, let's not forget the Adventures of the Briscoe County Kid, also Sam Raimi.
Correction. The Adventures of Briscoe County Jr. Get it straight.
Sorry, Briscoe Jr. Sorry. But
no. That was a favorite of mine. It was straight into syndication. It lasted about 2 seasons and it starred Julius Curry, also known as Shona from The Last Dragon.
But see, you gotta love that, because look at something. This guy, Sam Raimi, would have been, for me, I would have penned him to do it because I think he would have killed it. But
I would have loved to have seen Sam Raimi do something like this, because even with like some of the death stuff, and when the sorceress, she's looking more demon-like, that would be right up the Evil Dead makeup. It would have been right up there.
That would have been perfect, especially because you're going against like Fifth Element, Bruce Willis, Mila Jovovich, Gary Oldman, Chris Tucker. You're going against freaking aliens with the fourth Alien movie, Sigourney Weaver. Which
we have a precedent other than Hercules and Xena and company. They did Army of Darkness, which came out in 1992.
Mm-hmm.
So you had familiar with, obviously you worked with actors who were in armor, weapons, and then you had the stop motion effects with the whole Deadite army with the skulls, with the skeleton army. I mean, yeah, you could easily have done that, and that was written by Sam and Ivan Raimi.
Exactly.
So I mean, yeah, you have plenty of precedents.
There would have been a lot of easy ways to make it work.
And
obviously,
wait for this, Stray. Army of Darkness happened to be produced by companies Dino De Laurentiis. Does that sound familiar?
Oh yeah, De Laurentiis. Hey, let's go back to Conan.
Exactly. That would have been a home run.
I mean,
it honestly, would have been a home run.
This is the De Laurentiis line. He was a executive producer and director
of the very first one,
and the second one. So you could have easily had him come in and help do the production for at least to just up the value, because at the time you're competing against such Starship Troopers, which many people hated that movie, but iconic in sci-fi pop
Yes.
culture. You know, the thing
mean,
spawned several offshoot movies that were terrible, but an animated series, video games.
I mean, it didn't necessarily launch a lot of careers. Let's be honest.
James
But
Vanderbeek did not get any more popular, folks.
James Vanderbeek, he wasn't in the first one.
Yes, he was.
Are you thinking Casper Van Dien?
Casper Van Dien. Thank you, Casper Van Dien.
You tell me Dawson's in that movie?
No, Doogie Howser is, but Doogie Howser is.
Yes. NPH is in that, and I can't wait to see NPH this fall coming to Doctor Who.
Oh,
as a villain.
That's gonna be interesting because I like him. So we gotta talk about that.
Yeah, NPH. I mean, just the White Castle movies. I mean, come on, it's done. And not even talking about How I Met Your Mother. I mean,
Barney, How I Met Your Mother. Barney, I love
Bro
Barney
Code,
Stinson.
man, Bro Code. But I mean, he was in there. Seth Gillian, who plays actually winds up coming to Walking Dead and Teen Wolf, the series that was on MTV for a long time. He was very awesome on that. I'm trying to think of the actress's name that was in the one actress who was in there, not Denise Richards, but the other one.
Oh, the redhead.
She was in Birds of Prey
she
on
played Barbara
the WB
Gordon.
back in the day.
She played Barbara Gordon.
Yeah, she did. But you had Denise Richards in there. I mean, you had a lot of young actors, and they would wind up doing some cult films here and there. And even Casper Van Dien would come back to appear in that series later on. I think like 2 or 3 movies later, he would come back.
Dina Meyer.
Dina Meyer. Yeah. Michael Ironside.
Freaking, let's not even go there. Michael Ironside, folks. I mean, video games, Splinter Cell. He's the voice of the main hero in that
Highlander
series.
2.
Highlander 2.
Sequest 2032.
Sequest.
See, we're already on the same wavelength here. So,
Villain. He plays some of the greatest villains in all the late 80s and 90s.
He's also played some pretty good guys too, as Sam Lane on Smallville, father to Lois Lane.
Yep.
I mean, we've seen him come back and do a lot of stuff. Yeah, early on he's known as bad guy in another Schwarzenegger film, Total Recall.
Yep.
But yeah, it's it was up against a lot. Could have been done better. Could it be remade right now? Yes, it could.
Wait, now see, you ask a good question. Let's go to that last slide so we can wrap it up.
Okay, all right, guys. Should there be a Hyborian age cinematic universe? The question is, without a doubt, yes.
Now, the question is, Universal Studios and Universal Production Company as of 2018, Schwarzenegger was interviewed by several different news sources and said that this is the next movie, which is supposed to be the real finality to the Conan saga, is going to be called Conan the King. That is the working title. It is. I say
bring it because he's perfect age right now.
Yeah, he is. He's in his late 60s. He's still well built. You could put him in the armor. You could get someone like Jason Momoa. Like if we want to keep in like have someone that's young, attractive, that could still carry on a franchise. I mean, he would be a perfect fit. If not, the dudes from Vikings, the show Vikings, you can pick any number of those guys.
Hold on 1 second. I just want to flip something very quickly. Okay, we're going to do this. And we're going to do this, if I can get it going right. Okay, here we go. Okay, this is a still from Conan the Barbarian and Conan the Destroyer. Take a look at how he looks right now. I mean, with a little CGI, I'm sure, give him about a year to get in shape. I'm sure he could get in shape if he wanted to, but they could still CGI him. He's mostly covered. So you don't necessarily need to see his torso. You could have, King Conan and maybe one of his sons. Or maybe
I would call it King Conan. I would call the movie Conan the King.
Okay.
Right? And then what I would do is maybe do like what they did with The Rock when he was in The Rundown, where Schwarzenegger goes like, it's on you, kid. And then he passes the torch. Like I would have Conan.
Do you want Momoa or you want I would say somebody unknown.
I would
Let's
rather
get
go
somebody
with.
unknown.
I would go with one of the actors from Vikings, because those guys are
Okay.
all well built. They fit like that profile for what the Hyborian age would be. Also, for if you did get Valeria back, she's a blonde hair, blue eyed woman. He's a dark haired, dark eyed guy. They could, in theory, have somebody that would be like a hybrid like that. So I would see like maybe a fair skinned, blonde hair, blue eyed, well built man that's like the prince to Conan.
Take a
You
look at
know,
some of these Entertainment Earth statues that they have listed here.
and
Take
they
a
look
look at this.
amazing.
I mean, this this shows you Schwarzenegger could do it right now.
You would have it right now. I mean, hell, you could even like. You want me to be real funny, and I don't love him, but we could use Roman Reigns in this. Roman Reigns could be like a background actor, like a background soldier in
Okay,
the army.
I'll throw this out there. If you had someone like Roman Reigns as a physical actor, but you do like they're doing with Harrison Ford, you have an actor in a spot, you de-age Harrison Ford, make him look younger. You can even have flashbacks of other adventures that Conan had went on.
And I could use Roman Reigns, yeah, because he's still well built. I mean, he would be
Okay.
about the same size as Schwarzenegger was in the 80s.
Throw enough money at someone, and they won't care if they're not technically the face or not. You throw enough money at someone.
Well, I mean, Roman Reigns already said that his next move is Hollywood. So the potential for something like that could be. Now, when I say cinematic universe, you have to look at, well, what about Red Sonja? What about, now that's where we start running into problems. Conan right now is owned by Marvel, which means it's owned by Disney. So Conan the King may still be under the rights are still under Universal Studios, but you don't think the mouse would just go take money and stroll up there and buy it? They'll do it.
No. Hear me out. What did Sony do?
They leased it out they leased a property out for that's worth billions.
Yes.
Conan's not worth billions.
No, but are you saying that there can't be a deal struck between the mouse and Universal?
I think there could be a deal struck between the mouse buying it straight out. I think the mouse would just buy it straight out.
Two of the biggest attraction parks, biggest amusement parks, right? But one is doing a lot better than the other right now.
Right.
That's what I'm saying.
I'm not going to disagree with you because I've been to Disney. I know Universal.
Now, I personally have never been to either, but I hear stories from people who've just recently visited over the past couple months. They all tell me, including a good friend of my channel, Dude's Nerdery. He said that him and his daughter had a way better time at Universal than Disney.
Well, because the lines are shorter.
Well, not just that, but I mean Disney. It's happiest place on earth. They say. I hear from other sources. My cousin just got engaged at Disney in front of the Millennium Falcon. Cool, very cool. They tell me that the customer service there was very lackluster. It's all about getting the money, and everything is apparently insanely expensive. But there seems to be a bit more balance with Universal, because isn't Universal where Hogwarts is? The castle,
Hogwarts,
the Harry Potter experiences.
Yeah, that's where I want to go. But
Lana's that's where there's a boost in the arm coming soon, thanks to HBO, or should I say Max, because they're going to be doing a Potter series, retelling the stories of the books, which personally I don't necessarily agree with, but what do I know? They're going to do whatever they want. They have the money.
And don't forget, Nintendo World's going to be there next year. They're going to have Nintendo World. They're going to have the Epic Universe theme park. There's so much going. Like I said, we could go down the rabbit hole with that.
Now, are you a Potter fan?
I'm a huge Potter fan. Huge. I'm a big Potterhead.
How huge?
Gryffindor is my house. I don't have a wand. That's the only thing I don't have.
Got this from New York City.
I need to go. That's why when we go to Universal, I'm getting my wand.
2 years ago, when me and my wife first went to New York, we went to the Potter store when it first opened.
Nice. So, folks.
Yes, and I got Sirius Black.
I'm Sirius Black, one of my favorite characters. Gary Oldman, another great actor.
Yes, I had to go with him.
I'm going to tell you, folks. This we can go down the list. What I want to do is
you got the King Conan comics. I mean,
He,
apparently there's a lot of content they could do.
he's now part of the Savage Avengers in the current run of the comics. That's now
okay.
because he basically there was a time warp that brought Conan these
Forward in time.
This ancient mummy decided that he wanted to kill everybody on Earth, and what they did was he fell through a portal and came to the modern era, and basically was fighting through New York, meets up with like the Avengers, and then they make a splinter group with like Wolverine and several other characters. Then they finish that saga, and then they make the next Savage Avengers, which is got Conan in it again, and he's called the Man Displaced from Time. So it's actually very well
done. Isn't that Steve Rogers?
Yeah, I guess, but it's interesting. It's a very good series.
I mean, like you were saying about Sonya would be a little complicated. Now, all legalities aside, I would love to see more tellings of Kalidor and Sonya, because
tie it all in. Give me a timeline that's like Call to Kalidor to Conan to Red Sonja to their offspring, and make it a thing.
What if you had Call, conversing with Conan, like in some kind of spiritual or some kind of spiritual realm, like through dream walking of some kind?
They both worship Crom. So yes. what if he's praying at the altar of Crom in his castle and he sees a vision of Kevin Sorbo as Cole? I mean, give the nod. Kevin Sorbo still looks great for his age.
Yeah, he does. I mean, throw him in there. It might be a little bit harder because he's very what's the word I'm looking for? I mean, he's very religious now.
Yes.
So, for him to be involved with storyline, I think it would have to be along certain lines.
Money. But we all know money will get you.
Money talks,
money. The mouse said, hey, I need you to come back and reprise your role as this person for like 15 minutes. We're paying you $80 million. He'll shut the hell up and do it.
Basically.
So would I like to see it? I would like for you guys to actually put together, if you guys want, in our comment section below at when this video is posted, post some of your ideas. Who would you recast? Who would you cast as Conan's son? We've thrown out some ideas. I have more ideas, but I don't want to take away because it is 9:23. We are over the hour, but I do know that we have our boys over at the Welded Effing Figures. They're doing their giveaway, and I don't want to hold anybody to cross over, so I want to make sure they get their chance to win some cool prizes. And hell, we'd like to win some cool prizes. So thank you guys for coming into this portal with us. We are going to be on next week, same great time, same great place. I'm not going to tell you the topic. You're going to have to go to our IG page, folks, and find out what the topic is for next week. Because
yes, you will.
I'm not going to always be nice and let you guys get the little nuggets. Follow us to our IG page. Yes, that means go on Instagram. Follow us if you haven't followed us already. And like this video, comment below, do all the stuff that the algorithm asks you. And guys, I'm your boy Dre. This is my brother from another mother right here, Dave. We're going to jump through the portal.
Catch you guys on the other side. Take care.
Peace.